You do not need to shrink yourself in any way to fit into that person's idea of what is interesting about you. Whatever it is, whatever happens, whoever I meet, whatever auditions I book, whatever I don't, that's a chapter that I want in my life. Like I struggle with anxiety and depression, and having those as my acting partners sometimes it can be exhausting.
1, 2, 3, let's switch this up.
Hi, welcome to my channel. Let's get started. So this is Claire. I am so excited to have Claire on my channel to be doing an interview. So Clare McConnell is a Canadian actress and a comedian. Broadway world calls her the redheaded Jim Carrey. I absolutely love that. That's amazing. So Claire and I actually go back to 2014, Ryerson Theater School. We both went there, and she was there for 2 years, and that's where we got to learn, act, become friends. And after 2 years, unfortunately for us, but fortunately for Claire, after 2 years, she decided to move on to very amazing things and to continue her beautiful acting journey. And in the past few years, Claire has done American Gods, Murdoch Mysteries, Star Trek. She was alumni of the Second City Main Stage. I love how all of that sounds. And in 2019, Claire, you were nominated for Breakout Artist at the Canadian Comedy Awards. So tell me, Claire, how did you feel when you were being nominated for Breakout Artist?
It was very exciting. I mean, it's such a strange industry, and it's so rare that there's any kind of indication that you're on a good path.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you kind of have to so often create those indicators for yourself and decide, you know what, that callback is, even if I didn't book the thing, the fact that they wanted to see me again is a sign that I'm doing the right thing. So kind of you can have a different lens on the exact same set of circumstances and decide, oh my God, all of these things are telling me to stop and that this is bad and that I suck at it and whatever. But you could look at the exact same set of circumstances and see a million reasons why you're doing exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. So, Claire, I want to go back to the beginning. What made you get started in acting? What inspires you, I guess, now you've been doing it to create art?
Loneliness, I would say.
I think definitely after COVID, yes.
Especially after COVID, there were so many times in the last 2 years. Actually, kind of entering COVID, I was feeling really doubtful. I mean, I think a lot of us were, when it was so clearly these are the essential workers. Obviously, we weren't among that group, at least for the first while. Then things got kind of strange.
Yeah.
There were so many times during COVID when I was really at rock bottom and leaned on shows like Parks and Rec and Superstore and these cozy places, just these worlds that you can enter where you're going to be taken care of. And I was like, oh, this is so clearly a worthy thing to spend your life doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you, I guess today in the industry, have you faced any struggles? And do you still face these struggles, or are there new struggles you face now in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, actually just recently had a few days on a set where I was dealing with kind of a low-level panic attack the whole time. I struggle with anxiety and depression, and having those as my acting partners sometimes it can be exhausting. But at the same time, I think that I never know when I'm putting something out there, maybe because it's being filtered through those things, on this job, that someone might connect with. So again, it's not my job to judge whether it's good or bad that those are my scene partners sometimes. They along for the ride.
Yeah. I tell my subscribers that I'm right now in Pro Actors Lab. I'm doing classes with them, and I'm doing a class with Jeff Clark specifically, and he always talks about, and just last Wednesday he talked about where he said, if you were feeling out of it, just touch your scene partner, literally touch a finger or whatever. It just instantly brings you back to, you are here. This is not an acting class. Forget about all the people right there, or you're not on set. Don't worry about all the 25 people behind that camera. You were here, just do the touch. So yeah. So Claire, how did Second City start for you?
I've been doing improv since high school. It was the first professional performing that I ever did. I just kept doing it throughout theater school because I felt like it was a place where I got to authentically express myself and be creating the kind of work that I really enjoyed going to see. And then I actually sort of signed up for the audition as a practice. I was like, well, I'll just do generals this year kind of as a joke. And then I'll figure out what they're like. And then it didn't turn out to be that much.
But it's always like that. They always say that the minute you let go of the resistance and the obsession with the audition or with the booking or whatever, and you just go in with it almost like no expectations and ease, it's when energetically it will flow towards you, right? And I'm saying that out loud for myself too. So
I need to hear that every day. But I think that's like kind of like you said, it's the trick with every audition. Like I'm slowly getting better at being like, this is just an experience I'm about to have. Like that's all it is, really. I'm about to go in and express myself. And that is a full experience. That is 100%. It is complete, like as it is. And then if something follows it, that's great. But like, if it doesn't mean that you didn't like complete that sort of unit of energy.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess some of my subscribers, a couple of them I know talk about with me, and I know improv, but I'm not as improv involved as, let's say, you are. So this could really help them out. But let's say in Toronto, if they're looking to either get into the comedy world or even start, would Second City be the spot for them? Or would you, if Second City is the spot, how do you even get into Second City? Is that where they get into like general auditions? Talk me through all of that. So whoever is new into looking into getting improv comedy, you know, in Toronto, where do they go? What direction?
Please, if anyone listening to this is at all interested in doing comedy and improvising, just do it. There's so many places. There's like Bad Dog. There's Comedy Bar. There's the Assembly. And then there's Second City. There's so many places. I don't really know if it matters where you start. Like if you have that instinct and there's something in you that's calling you to do it, best way to do it is just to get up on stage and suck sometimes and get a laugh sometimes and meet a ton of people. Like that's the best part of it, is just the community. I'd say like classes at Bad Dog would be an awesome place to start. And Bad Dog has a ton of opportunities for actual, like being in shows, which at the end of the day, and it's, I think the same with film and TV, although it can be a little bit harder to create those opportunities for yourself, like just doing it is the only way you learn. Second City classes are also an awesome place to start, but really just getting those reps in where you're up there and you're falling flat on your face or you're flying. Like that's really it.
So Claire, when you were at Second City, did you face any like struggles? Did you like realize things about yourself that you were like, this is something that I have a hard time, like I have a resistance towards? Even though you've been doing improv for a while, like are there things that you like learned that you're like, oh, I didn't know that I don't enjoy doing that? Interesting.
Yeah. Looking back on it with a couple of years of distance, when I first started, I had never done sketch before. I'd only done improv. So I felt intimidated by sketch. But looking back on the first show that I ever did, which was a holiday show with the touring company, those are some of my favorite sketches I ever did in that building. And it was before I started to try and figure out how to do it right. And I was just sort of trusting my gut and finding what felt fun for my scene partner and I. If I were to go back and talk to myself at the very beginning, I'd be like, you already know how to do it.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't come off as cocky. I mean like, you know how to, we all know when we're tapped into that place, like in its pure expression, because it's not being filtered through a million techniques.
It's true. Just be who you are. Don't fabricate it. Don't be anything else besides you, because you can see it right through it. So
I think about you a lot, and in terms of your strength in knowing that your authentic voice, quite literally, is part of you and is essential to your Anna-ness. Like I think you're a perfect example of that. just being true to yourself and knowing that that is exactly what you should be.
It's interesting because after I graduated theater school, and I actually a couple months ago felt confident enough, and I talked about this a lot on my channel with my honeys, because I treat my subscribers as if they were my family, like they were like equal as me, we're on the same level. And I tell them, like I said, look guys, I'm not a Hollywood actor, I have not booked 3 million things, but I've been through shit in this industry that probably some of you can't even imagine what it's like. And I want to share that experience so that if you ever reach a red flag like this, you're not walking into it. Like, people have asked me this after I did my theater school video, like my experience. People said, would you ever do theater school again? And I was like, if I knew what I was going to go through in my 4 years, hell no. Do you know the amount of money I paid for therapy after for 2 years just to even heal myself, because I was so disgusted with me, my body, my voice. Like, I couldn't stand myself at all, right? Like,
a completely like a different situation, but like I'm 6 feet tall. And there were times when I was starting out with auditioning and everything where I got really curious about like, how many things is this disqualifying me from? Like, if the leading man is 5'7", and it would just be like, they'd have to apple box them all the time. Or, I mean, not, which is something that I pitch often. So I'm like, if you had like a leading lady who was 5'7" and a leading man who's 6 feet, they're not going to be like, how are we going to shoot this? It would never be an issue. But that aside, like, I got really curious about it. And I remember being like on the verge of asking in an audition, just genuine, like I'd gone in for quite a few auditions with one casting director. And I was like, I just want to know. And then I stopped myself because it's so irrelevant, because it's not something that I'm going to change.
yeah.
It also, I know for a fact, has been part of the reason that I've booked some of the stranger roles that I've gotten to do. Like, it's not the only reason that I did Star Trek, but I know for sure they were looking for like women of my build to be on that show, just in contrast to like the humans.
So with that being said, Claire, do you ever get typecasted with, like, I guess, maybe the height, or do you feel you get typecasted?
I guess I wouldn't know. I tend to play, if I were to like draw a through line, kind of rude rich ladies. I don't know. It's sort of one of my hits, but I really think like I've been so lucky. I've gotten to do so many strange things on all ends of the spectrum. I don't tend to book things that take place in the present, like take place in 2022. I'm either in the past or in the future. I don't know. I am just so grateful to have gotten to play very distinct, like from Klingons to Murdoch mysteries. I'm like, it's never been boring. I always go in and have some strange hair and makeup situation and get to step into another world, which is like, that's the dream as a kid. Walk into some fantastical other life that's so unlike your own.
Yeah. So do you prefer self-tapes, or I want to say in-person auditions, but I'm going to say Zoom, I guess. I'll count that as the in-person. So what's your...
Zoom any day.
Really? Okay, interesting.
Controversial. A lot of people hate it, but I find that's how I book. Like, I work hard to make my tapes for them to look the way they would have back in the day if we were in the room. But I find that I shouldn't be in charge of how many takes I get. I don't think that is my job. And I just find that I tend to get pretty obsessive about my tapes. I'm really working on it. I have a 3-take max at the moment, which I did break yesterday.
Would you ever do Los Angeles or Vancouver in terms of the market? Would you ever switch or branch out?
Yeah, I'm planning on moving to LA. I had done that whole application process pre-COVID, and then just submitted at the worst time probably in the last 30 years that you could have applied for a green card. I applied in February of 2020. So it was not ideal. But I really think that like post-COVID, I'm entering that phase with a very different perspective. I didn't realize how much of it for me was attached to fear of aging in this industry as a woman, which, maybe is a bit of an eye roll for some people because like you and I are still in our 20s, but that pressure, even though the landscape is changing, like you can still feel that pressure. But I found a lot of forced perspective in the last couple of years and some more clarity on the way I want to live. And going down there is an experience I want to have, full stop. Whatever it is, whatever happens, whoever I meet, whatever auditions I book, whatever I don't, that's a chapter that I want in my life.
Whatever happens, happens, wherever your path takes you there, just go with it. So with that being said, Claire, what's your dream role?
I never know how to answer that, but a career like Catherine Hahn's would be my dream. She has never been pigeonholed into a certain type. She goes from a Judd Apatow comedy over to a transparent. She gets to express a full spectrum of being a woman. I think that more and more careers are coming along that look like that. I think men have had that for a little bit longer than we have. Yeah. I do love, there's a show called W1A, which I highly recommend to anyone who's interested in comedy. It's on Netflix. It's a BBC show about a department at the BBC that doesn't know what they're for. There's a character on that show who anything in that world would just be a joy. She's just dead behind the eyes. She's completely flat. She's Botox to the hilt. I really it thrills me, the idea of becoming more and more castable in those kinds of parts. I think it's only going to get better as we hit our 40s and our 50s. Like we're gonna have some very interesting parts come our way.
So Claire, I guess because you went to theater school as well, and I don't know if maybe you're biased, but I guess for new actors, would you recommend for them to do theater school or skip the theater school and go straight into classes? I get this question a lot. That's why I'm asking. I'm curious to hear from someone who's been through theater school and knows how to answer this.
If you have any instinct that at some point you might want to do a master's in a directing program, if a BFA means anything to you, then go at least try. In the beginning with theater school for me, I told my parents I didn't want to go to university and I wanted to move to Toronto and create my own curriculum of all the film and TV classes and find the best voice teacher in Toronto, find the best whatever. I was like, there's no way all of the best in each category are at one school. And I ended up going to theater school, and I'm glad that I know what it is. I'm glad I experienced it. Again, it's back to that thing. I'm like, yep, that was a chapter. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to set emotional boundaries, what is good work and what is a panic attack. And you're the only one who knows that for yourself. So I am grateful there were also a lot of really positive experiences for me there. There's no one size fits all answer. I think you really need to listen to your gut. And when someone is telling you that their system is the only way, and that if you don't succeed in their system, that you will never succeed anywhere, it's over. In that moment, it's over. You do not need to shrink yourself in any way to fit into that person's idea of what is interesting about you. Follow your gut. And there's also, even if you do stay somewhere, I know I stayed in theater school, even though it was only 2 years, that second year, I was done. I was feeling really frustrated with the structure of it and feeling like so much of it was paying for classes that in order to continue in the program, you had to take all of these courses. And I knew the areas in which I felt like I'm really growing with that person. I really have a lot to get out of that. So why am I paying $600 for this other thing? I'd say give it a go and leave whenever whenever it feels right for you.
I think that's a really good way to look at it, because that's something that I struggled with, because I really wanted to finish theater school, because I really wanted, it was important for my parents to have a university degree, and it was also important for myself to have a university degree. But I think after everything that I went through, because people asked, they're like, well, why did you stay for 4 years? I said, because I wanted to fucking prove to them that you are not breaking me down. Like, I'm graduating whether you like it or not. And the funny part is, at the end, when I graduated during our convocation, I was the only one in the class who didn't graduate with honors. And I was like, man, you really are going to do something. Like, even at the very end, you're going to make a statement, and I'm going to be the only outcast in this entire class. Why not? Let's put it out there. It'd be like, with honors, with honors, with honors. Anastasia Piero, with honors, with honors, with honors. And I was like, nice. Great. Claire, we're almost done. I have 2 quick little questions. One of them is, I'm dying to know, how long did your makeup take on Star Trek?
Started off at around 4 hours, and then we got it down to 2. I loved watching it get done every day. It was really thrilling to disappear.
Was it a lot though? Because it is a whole lot. Like, did you feel like you were almost like being buried alive essentially, or no?
No, I felt like I was becoming my true form.
Oh, I love that. No, that's a great way to look at it. I love that.
It was so liberating. Honestly, that was like one of the coolest experiences of my whole life. It was just to look in the mirror and see a different species. There's nothing like that. I would love to go back to the dream role question. If I could play like monsters in Guillermo del Toro movies for the rest of my career, I would be thrilled.
So then I guess my question is, when you were being asked to audition, did you do anything physically, like with your face or anything, to make you look monstrous, or no, nothing?
I had to say that I wasn't allergic to latex. So I was like, what is this? What are we making here? But I didn't know what it was. It was just a scene about a battle.
I like that, because I think that's if you already knew, like for me, if I knew that I was going to be this like very completely different species, I wondered if it would have screwed with me in the audition, being like, well, my face, like how do I make, like.
If I was to go back and do that role again though, like not the audition, I think I wouldn't like go this far in the audition, but generally, if I see a performance, my note for myself is like, I know what your instinct was in that moment, and you crunched it because you were afraid of looking dumb. Whatever, you're like, I don't want to be too much. And there were a lot of physical impulses that I was like, no, it's film, like make it subtle. Watching that, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had let myself be as embodied in it as I wanted to be. Go for it. Go, like always, just go for it. Let someone pull you back. A director will be so grateful to see how far you can go. And then they can always bring you back in. It's
very true. And even like Jeff Clark, like my coach, he says it all the time. He's like, I am telling you, a director would rather have you be pulled back than having to push you forward. Like, there's nothing worse than being asked, can you do a little more? Can you do more? Claire, my last question, really important. And I think a lot of, not even just young actors, but a lot of new actors who are watching this and are on my channel, what advice can you give to the new beginners in this industry?
Look after your heart and look after your brain first. There's nothing in this industry that's worth sacrificing your safety for, your emotional safety. I mean, obviously your physical safety, but yeah, like work with people who see you as you are and who lift you up. One of my favorite coaches, who is a huge reason that I still am even in this industry, Ray Ellen Bodie, has been slowly teaching me that at the end of the day, my voice is what is required in my work. And bring yourself to the table. If you're chosen, that's great. But if you're not, at least you know that it was you who showed up for that audition. Maybe you book a huge lead, but in your audition, you went in and you sort of shut this part of yourself off, and you shut down all these little instincts because you thought that was what they would want. And then you go and shoot that role, and it's not an authentic expression of anything that is important to you, or maybe that will connect with anyone. Go in with what you bring to the table and make every audition a short film that you would want to watch.
Oh, Claire, I'm feeling so many things. Thank you. Honestly, thank you for today. Thank you for your vulnerability, for your honesty, your openness, and thank you just for showing up with, like you said, show up as who you are. And that's what you did. Thank you a million times.
Thank you. And just thank you for what you're putting out there for everyone. I wish I had this when I moved to Toronto. I think I would have made some leaps earlier, and I would have felt less alone. And you're just so talented and so special, and I love you.
Oh my gosh, I love you. Thank you a million times. Honeys, this is it. We are coming to the end to our little interview with Claire, and it's been an absolute honor to have Claire on the channel. And I'm hoping, and I know for a fact she will be back again for maybe a part 2 down the line. Some new things will happen. We'll have to discuss again. But a million times thank you, Claire, and good luck. Good luck.